Juha and the King. Three of the most famous scholars in the world claimed in the presence of the king that there was no other scholar who could match our virtues and knowledge. The king highly respected the scholars of his country, so when he heard this claim from the three scholars, he decided to confront them with his own scholars. He issued a decree for several scholars of the country to come to the royal court, and if they couldn't answer the questions of the three scholars, they would be executed. The soldiers brought a number of scholars to stand before the king, and among them was Juha, who brought his donkey with him. One of the three scholars asked Juha, "Where is the center of the earth?" Juha replied, "Right here, where the nails of my donkey's stable are hammered." The scholar asked him, "How can you prove that?" Juha responded, "If you don't believe it, measure it to be sure." The scholar remained silent, compelled to do so. The second scholar asked Juha, "What is the number of stars in the sky?" Juha answered, "As many as the hairs on my donkey's body." The scholar asked, "How can you prove that?" Juha replied, "If you don't believe that, you can count them." The second scholar was convinced and sat down. The third scholar asked Juha, "What is the number of hairs in my beard?" Juha answered, "It is as many as the hairs in my donkey's tail." The scholar replied, "That's not correct. My beard has more." Juha said, "This can be easily tested. We'll pluck a hair from the donkey's tail and one from your beard. We'll continue doing that until all the hairs are plucked out, and then we'll know who was right." The third scholar was also forced to remain silent and sit in his place. The king was very pleased with Juha's answers and rewarded him generously. The trickery of Juha. Three friends went to Juha's garden to have some fruits. One of them was a nobleman, the second was an elder, and the third was an ordinary man. Juha entered the garden and saw three people eating the fruits of his garden. He wanted to argue with them, but he realized it wasn't appropriate. So, he thought to himself and came up with a trick. Juha turned to the ordinary man and said to him, "You foolish intruder, this man is a nobleman and he owns 5 of our properties, yet he is eating from my grandfather's estate. Likewise, the venerable elder is entitled to the zakat and the imam's share. Since this garden belongs to them, who are you to intrude upon my garden and eat my fruits without any right?" He began to beat the ordinary man. When the elder and the nobleman saw that Juha didn't object to their presence, they also said to the ordinary man, "Juha is right. Why are you eating the property of others without their permission?" After Juha had beaten the ordinary man, tied his hands and feet, he turned towards the elder, saying, "My dear elder, of course, you are educated enough to know that our 5 properties belong to the lords without a doubt. Therefore, if this nobleman eats 5 fruits from my garden, it is his right. But you have not yet reached the level of striving to take the imam's share. Just as I have paid the obligatory zakat on my wealth, why do you eat from the properties of others without their consent?" When the nobleman realized he was safe from Juha's objection, he helped in tying the elder's hands. After Juha had beaten the elder and relaxed a bit, he turned to the nobleman and said, "Damn you and your grandfather. Firstly, the ownership of this garden doesn't belong to any nobleman. Even if we assume you have the right to 5, how did you know that the owner of this garden didn't pay the obligatory 5? Did your grandfather tell you to eat people's belongings for free?" Then Juha began to beat the nobleman, tied his hands and feet, and threw him alongside the elder and the ordinary man. With this clever trick, Juha managed to overcome all 3 of them at once.